All right, we're there. Welcome to SouFLoTV again, everybody. It is your host with the most, and we are going to talk with no further ado, no long talking, right into this Vybz Kartel corrupt juror stuff, but I am going to add more to it. I'm going to tell you the reason why Vybz Kartel will not be coming out of prison anytime soon, and I should say, well, not anytime soon as in the time that we expected him, because I know so the Gaza nation, I say, yo, make the boss come out enough at least for Christmas, by the time Christmas come. And we had that same dream Christmas of last year. You know what I'm saying? And right now we are in October, and it will be November and then December pretty soon. And it looks like we can't get an answer from that 3-judge panel that heard the appeal. No. They even went on vacation and left the man locked up, right? So, here what? Let's talk about this juror thing first. Big up to Urban Island. So, Vybz Kartel corrupt juror trial evidence raises more fairness question, says his attorney. I want you to listen carefully, okay? So, Vybz Kartel corrupt juror case is back before the courts. Livingston Kane, who is the juror that has been charged with bribing the jury in the Vybz Kartel 2014 murder trial. If you were following the trial, you would know that there was one particular juror who was accused of being that man, that plant in the scene to say to the other jurors, look, I want y'all to come back with a not guilty verdict, okay? And here's a certain amount of money to the tune of about 500 grand. So, this court, he was caught allegedly. Allegedly, he was caught, and he now is about to stand trial for that. So he's back in court, and on this ongoing trial, some new evidence was presented in Mr. Kane's trial that also raises some questions about the fairness of the ongoing trial of Mr. Vybz Kartel himself, whose real name, as we already know, is Adidja Palmer, we're a boss. And his 3 accused, Sean Storm Lyall, Soldier Campbell, Andrew St. John, and Kahira Jones, who are currently awaiting the conclusion of their appeal. Well, as you know, not to sidestep a little bit, but Kahira Jones, I don't think he's coming out anytime soon. But let's carry on with this. So, Kane the juror was arrested the same day that Vybz Kartel was convicted of murder. I said to myself even back then that this was all a ploy because they had to make something stick. That case was so pitchy-patchy that they had to add even more to it. I think the strategy of the prosecution was to pile so much dirt on top of this thing and add so much confusion to it that the average individual would just get frustrated and just say, listen, it must guilty for true because me can't wrap my mind around all this. Even juror trying to bribe people to make them say not guilty. It must be true. And that is what they did. So on the same day that Vybz Kartel was convicted, the juror was charged with attempting to pervert the course of justice. And this is a crime which is punishable with years in prison. So law enforcement officials now, they revealed that Kane had attempted to bribe members of the jury and the 4 women of the jury with a 500 grand in return for a not guilty verdict of the 4 men. And he has since been released and on bail pending his own trial. Check this part out now. So, a lot of people are saying, well, if the juror was trying to bribe the rest of the jury, then that was supposed to work in favor of Vybz Kartel, right? It would make it seem like he had somebody in the inside that was trying to bribe everybody else, but it did not work. As I said earlier, I think that was the plan of the prosecution to make it seem as such. Watch this. The prosecution and the defense cross-examine an information technology person. Listen to it now. The prosecution and the defense, meaning the people bringing the charges against Kartel and the people defending him on both sides of the fence, they cross-examine a information technology professional on the witness stand in Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court recently. The IT professional testified that the two audio recordings allegedly between the jury forewoman and Livingston Kane, the juror who they said tried to bribe everybody, may have been doctored, spliced up. How long have we been saying that that is what took place in a lot of this that happened? Here is a IT professional that is testifying to this. A significant part of Vybz Kartel appeal involves serious questions around the validity of the evidence that has been used to convict him. So you see why proving that these voice notes were spliced and diced and put together to suit a certain agenda is of the utmost importance. So, one such example involves the meta timestamp on some of the evidence that was presented in the case, which shows a date of July 6th, 2011, which is 6 weeks before the prosecution claimed that the four men killed Clive Lizard Williams. Let me say it again, because every time I do these videos, people come with their personal feelings and they sidestep solid proof. DNA evidence is solid proof. If I find your semen and I find your blood or any of the or hair sample or fingerprint, your biometrics at a crime scene, I have placed you at the crime scene. And now you're going to have to explain how that part of you reached the crime scene, right? Whether somebody cut me hair off and carry go drop it over there, somebody jerk me off and bring me semen go over there, you're going to have to come up with something that is substantial enough in court to save you from being that. So is metadata. In Vybz Kartel appeal, I get tired of doing these videos, but oh man, they are so necessary because I hate to see someone, especially someone of stature and someone who represents so much hope for ghetto youths. I hate to see that person's greatness just dwindle away behind bars for something they did not do. One such example involves the meta timestamp. Metadata is like DNA, man. It is the ITDNA. That timestamp on the evidence. Remember the phone call where they heard Vybz Kartel saying about something, the shoes them, and somebody get chopped up fine and all these things, and that phone call, it was proven that that phone call's metadata timestamp was for July 6th of 2011, which would place that 6 weeks before the prosecution claimed that the four men actually killed Clive Lizard Williams. So how could he have been talking about him chop up fine and all that 6 weeks before it actually happened? You know, see, Prosecutors argued that there is no evidence that the devices that were seized from Kartel and his co-accused were tampered with. And that is their job, to say something like that. But when metadata does not match and you have a IT specialist that is saying that the stuff was tampered with, then prosecution can say all them want to say, but they are not saying the truth. Understood? Investigators says that they lifted the audio recording between the jury foreman and Mr. Kane, the juror that was supposed to be bribing them, from a BlackBerry smartphone. There are also some doubts about the clarity of the audio. This a woman you know, Valerie Nita Robertson, she told the Star that there seems to be some hidden motivation surrounding the seemingly tampered evidence. Yes, Miss Robertson, you are absolutely right, because the hidden motivation is ultimately to keep Vybz Kartel where he is at for the entire time that they have wrongfully sentenced him and his cohorts to be where they are at. That is the hidden agenda right there. And they will suppress every legitimate evidence to include metadata and IT specialist testimony, professional opinion, professional testimony. They will suppress everything, every ounce of truth in order to achieve that agenda. If we are able to examine the phone, we may have found other things, like when the date stamp was changed. She, the foreman, did not have the phone to give us. She went shopping in New York and lost the phone. That is what she said. I saw. How convenient, huh? How convenient. So here we are. Now remember, she, the foreman or the forewoman, she did not have the phone now. And the same phone where they're claiming they lifted this info from, right? This conversation from. This barely audible conversation from. And when asked to surrender the phone now, so prosecution and defense can actually have a look at the phone and have the phone tested by their own professionals, comparing messages and find out if certain things were adjusted in the phone. She said that she went shopping in New York and lost the phone. That is what she said. Nita Robertson said, I don't see how, if it is that the court is going to rely on her saying she recorded this thing and it is shown not to be valid, then where you think we stand? Answer me, SouFLoTV audience. Any of this makes sense? It'll be interesting to see the outcome of this case, right? And how it may impact Vybz Kartel's murder case. And we're talking about the outcome of the juror trying to bribe the rest of the jury case and how that will impact the Vybz Kartel case. Now, a lot of people say, SouFlo, how come you not talk about how come we not hearing anything about when Kartel coming out? So we were happy, like when time children get holiday from school, because we thought, yes, an appeal has been granted. And now, in an appeal, things are going to come out which are going to make Vybz Kartel, Sean Storm, and the rest of them, Kahir Jones and Andre St. John, go to court and say, one morning they're going to say, we've found these inconsistencies and you are no longer incarcerated, you are free to go after today. Well, it seems like we were dreaming, people, because I was under the impression, right, that it stopped in Jamaica. I was under the impression that the highest court was in Jamaica. So if it went to this appeal court where it's at now, then there was no more appeal after this. There's no other place that we could go after this. Boy, was I wrong. And this is why it's important to know certain things. Check this out. So the Court of Appeal is the highest appellate court in Jamaica. It is superior to the Supreme Court, and it is comprised of a president and 6 other judges. The Court of Appeal is the highest appellate court in Jamaica, and it is superior to the Supreme Court, comprised of a president and 6 other judges. This is where Vybz Kartel's trial appeal is, in the Court of Appeals at the moment, and it has already been heard. He was granted the right to have an appeal, and it went through, and it was heard, and the decision now is supposed to be made by this 3-panel judge kind of thing. Here what? When Kartel put out on social media the other day that him say, on a tech, quick time basically for convict man, and now it's taking y'all over a year just to review evidence in the same case. Why didn't it take them that long to convict them in the first place? Quickly they convicted them, but to look over the same case for appeal is taking them years now. Kartel said, go and do one no man, because we already know where the pre is. Go and do one no make we send it go England. So I had to go look. And what I found out is Jamaica's highest court is not located in Jamaica. Jamaica's highest court now is called the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, which is located in London, UK. Jamaica's highest court is called the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, which is located in London, UK. If you don't believe me, just go look up Jamaica's highest court, Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, and you will see where it's located, and you will see why Jamaica still bows to this order, and you will see who it covers as far as Commonwealth nations and past territories of that colloquial, all kind of them kind of talk there. Understand? So, for those of you who are thinking, okay, if these 3-panel judge in this appeal court in Jamaica don't answer back, or if they answer back and say, no, we don't see it going any further, it dies here, it doesn't. They're going to then take that and send it to England. We're honestly hoping that it doesn't get there, but I can see now what they're doing in Jamaica. They are dragging it out as long as they can because it is in their power now to drag it out as long as they can. Once it goes, even if they say no and it then goes to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council in England, it is now out of their hands. What I didn't know, which I know now, is corruption at the highest order. Did y'all see Raul Reed and all these other people? It is funny to actually see these people aligned with the Prime Minister and everybody else who is in position of power. It's funny to see them get arrested because you know they must step on somebody con. Because the whole of them over there in the same bag doing the same corrupted things, believe it or not. Now, with that said, right where cartel case is right now, the 3 judges that are representative of the Court of Appeals, they are a part of the Brotherhood in Jamaica. So why would we expect for them to come out and say, well, we made a gross error and we have wrongfully convicted dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel along with the others? Because based on the evidence that we now see, we see that these men should never have been locked up in the first place and need to immediately be released from custody. That would be like the 3 highest judges in the land actually saying our system is flawed. We made a big, big mistake. And they're not going to do that. They're simply not going to do that. So for us that are waiting for them to say that, I would be very, very surprised if they did. But I am willing to bet that they are not going to do that. They are going to double down on what they have already done. Because for them to do that would be for them to admit that there are 2 different laws in Jamaica. It would be for them to admit that them send people go prison all the time for things that they don't do. It would be for them to admit that poor people don't get no fairness in the judicial system in Jamaica. It would be for them to admit that they took this entertainer at the prime of his career and locked him behind bars on trumped up charges and circumstantial evidence. I can't even call it evidence. Circumstantial made up BS, simply because they just did not like him. Remember, there are people in positions of power who came on national television and said stuff like Owen Ellington and all them, who said stuff like Vybz Kartel is the leader of a gang that is responsible for over 100 murders across the island of Jamaica. Police commissioner, and not one of this has been proven. Yet no one holds him accountable for the tarnishing of this man's name to such a length. And you must remember that the media is like church in Jamaica. When my grandparents, right, and my parents, them hear news, they sit and watch and they believe what is being told to them because these are seen as people in position of authority. It's like the pastor, the prime minister, them people that they listen to. So whatever they say is gospel to majority of the people. It's only the young and rebellious say, move on, go ahead. A lie or not tell. But majority of the people believe. So they were successful at tarnishing this man's name and using people in a position of power, Bunting and all of them in a position of power to tarnish it more and more. And then when it was time now to demonize him, and then when it was time to crucify him by locking him behind bars and giving him life sentence, it was easier to do because they had a great number of the population that was on their side. Well, the police commissioner said the man responsible for a gang, you know, a Gaza gang, you know, the man music movement named Gaza, you know. And a lot of people are saying, well, police commissioner say I'm responsible for the gang, you know, responsible for over 100 murder. Everywhere me go, me hear the youth, them I say this Gaza thing. It must be true, man. 100 murder, get him off the streets immediately. So it was a witch hunt. It was a witch hunt. That is what these judges would have to admit to. And they're not willing to do it. So for those of you who are wondering why the case is taking so long, and for those of you who are wondering if the judges in Jamaica from the appeals court come back and say, nope, still guilty, stay with them there. If that's going to be the end of it, you've had the reason why they've been dragging their feet so long, and you now know that no, it is not the end of it. Because if they do say no, then this is going to go to Jamaica's highest court, which is the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, which is located in London, England. And we still have a free world boss, man. And we still have say, boy, I mean, I know, you know, enough people say, SouFlo, here what? You said that Gaza something there. Remember, you know, you have to think about Zionists, and you have to think about Jews, and you have to think about the elitists, and you have to think about Israel and Gaza and that war there, and you have to think about, say, Kartel take up the name Gaza now, and it's like he's pushing a movement that is putting strength to the Gaza, the other Gaza, the Gaza where the Israel them a bomb out all the time. So it's a serious thing. So this need to lock him, which part he is, comes from a higher authority because them want him do away with the Gaza thing. So if him could have just changed out the Gaza part, him probably would be free already. I think it's more than that though. Personally, I think it has something to do with that, but I think because that Gaza is something that just leave a bad feelings in a lot of them. But I think it has more to do with the influence that Vybz Kartel had over the youths. Because I remember a prominent politician coming on television and saying this. He said, then if we didn't lock him up, we wouldn't have any school system today, man. That's exactly what the man said. If we didn't lock him up, we wouldn't have any school system today in Jamaica because the youths them were so influenced by him. The youth them start wear tight jeans and fitted and this and that. And if Kartel say wear it, them wear it. Him say Clarks, sell off. Right? Anything him do, they do. Everybody start laugh because the man said he was that influential. And he was taking over the minds of the youth. He was captivating. He was daring. He was brawling. He was bucking the system. He was unruly to a certain point. And he needed to be controlled, or else a lot of the youths would become uncontrollable. To Vybz Kartel credit, let me say this before I close this video out. If you look at the murder statistics out of Jamaica from the time Vybz Kartel was incarcerated to now, even though they blamed him then for murders skyrocketing and scamming and all this, everything that was criminal was placed on Vybz Kartel, the blame and all that, right? The man make a song where in a line of it he said, them call it scamming, we say reparations. Ooh. Bunting says, no. Bunting said, I'm taking this to the United States of America and to Mocha and let them know that Vybz Kartel is endorsing scamming. So here is the artist in Jamaica that is endorsing scamming. And y'all know that scamming was a huge issue in Jamaica, to the point where FBI, CIAs got involved and are now on the ground in Jamaica trying to, many people have been extradited and are now doing time overseas, but they're also trying to recover the material things, seizing people's bank accounts, houses, cars, jewelry, so on and so forth, through that scamming thing. The scamming thing had become even bigger than the drugs trade at one point. So it was that big of a deal. So for them to say, this is the face of it, this is the person, that fire was placed on Vybz Kartel. All right. So you can see that this youth was getting a fight from many different angles. And the control of the minds of the youth is where it was really at. When you start to wake up the masses of the people and tell the new generation, say, don't vote. We not say PMP, we not say JLP, we say Gaza. We not vote till the politicians them do what we are demanding of them to do to bring about a better life for us. That's needed, but when you're brave enough to step out and say it, then believe me, they're coming for you. And that's where Kartel found himself, right? So with that said, that is where that is at. I hope that gave you a good understanding of all that. And leave your comments in the comment section below. It's SouFLoTV, man. I'm out. World boss. Guys, I would say.